Welcome back to OtakuDaiKun. Dai-chan here, and you're watching the Waifu Files, a show where we discover and celebrate various anime by rating their lovely ladies. On the docket for today is Konosuba, God's Blessing on This Wonderful World, an isekai comedy that parodies more traditional fantasy anime. I like to consider it the modern Slayers, and given the series just released a new video game in English and has a third season on the way, I figured now would be the perfect time to remind ourselves of the fantastic and hilarious waifu Konosuba has to offer. For my sanity though, I am going to remain anime only, meaning that waifu introduced in the older Konosuba game, Fantastic Days, won't be included. Before we get started, consider buying your anime figures from Entertainment Earth. Use my affiliate link to get 10% off all in-stock items, and free US shipping on orders $79 and up. I recommend these pricey, yet high-quality figures of Megumin as a race queen, and Darkness as a bunny girl. Also, you can purchase my official Dai-chan Dakimakura from Cuddly Octopus. All the relevant links are in the description. Konosuba tells the story of Kazuma Sato, a Japanese hikikomori who stopped attending school when his childhood sweetheart hooked up with a biker. He spent his days binging video games, only leaving the house to buy more of them. In a parody of the anime Mushoku Tensei, Kazuma sees one of his classmates walk in front of a speeding truck, and so he dives in to push her out of the way. He dies, not because the truck hit him, but rather from shock. Kazuma mistook Truck-kun for a slow-moving tractor, and his pathetic demise has everyone, including the doctors, holding back their laughter. In heaven, Kazuma meets Aqua, a disrespectful goddess of water who taunts him for dying. She manages the deceased from multiple parallel worlds and gives Kazuma the chance to be reincarnated into a fantasy world that needs help slaying its evil devil king. He's allowed to take one thing, anything he wants, alongside him for the journey, and to get back at Aqua for her insults, he chooses her. This must be parodying Ah My Goddess. Dragged out against her will, Aqua is forced to join Kazuma as he begins his career as an adventurer. Not only does he start out weak at Axel, the town of beginnings, but he reluctantly forms a party with misfit girls who each have their own glaring vice. Let's start with Aqua, the useless goddess. Within this fantasy world, she is worshipped by the Axis Order, though ironically, none of her followers believe she is in fact their goddess incarnate. She's far from the caring, omnipotent deity you'd expect. Instead, she's reckless and carefree, overwhelmingly selfish, and narcissistic. As an archpriest adventurer, her stats are all maxed, except for luck and intelligence, naturally. Despite this tremendous ability, she chooses to spend her skill points on party tricks. Luckily, she compensates with holy powers that can heal her allies, nullify curses, and exorcise the undead. This is great against ghosts and zombies, and she can even resurrect Kazuma from death. But her purification can also nullify positive aspects, such as the restorative qualities of hot springs. Aqua relies on her feather cloak, a holy artifact that Kazuma takes for granted as an ordinary scarf, as well as her spell-casting scepter, which she summons to perform her spells. Day after day, she endures Kazuma's ridicule in hopes of binging booze at the pub each night. A bit of praise and bubbly will always win her over. While she brags about her divinity, she's cowardly in the face of alligators and giant toads. She's not above scheming for quick ways to raise cash, often getting the party into trouble. In contrast, she's honest to a fault. When she tries to keep a secret, it only takes a bit of poking and prodding to break her silence. I give Aqua 4 stars. Her greatest shame is relying on a member of the Eris sect to spot her entry fee into the Adventurers Guild. Eris just so happens to be Aqua's colleague in heaven. While Aqua is a lazy, delinquent goddess who spends her time in heaven reading manga, Eris is a paragon of virtue, often having Aqua's responsibilities pushed upon her. She is the immortal goddess of luck and fortune, and as such has a much larger following than Aqua, despite being a kohai. For as proper as she is, Eris can still get a bit mischievous. Answering the prayer of one of her followers, an adventurer named Darkness, she visits the fantasy world through her alter ego Chris the Thief. For a time, Chris and Darkness go on adventures together, until Darkness chooses to seek out Kazuma for his perversion. Eris keeps her double life to herself, using it as an opportunity to let loose from her duties as a goddess. As Chris, she is more aggressive, having the confidence to steal from nobles. She's also the one to teach Kazuma how to be a thief, albeit at the cost of her panties. Even a tomboy can get self-conscious, you know. As a bit of trivia from the game, Chris wears a padded breastplate, and ever since Kazuma stole her pantsu, she sometimes wears black leggings in case it happens again, which of course it does. Her goddess side despises the undead, even more so than Aqua. Her authority as a goddess allows her to create a gate to the mortal world, through which she projects her soul into Chris's body. Through Chris, she can gather the divine artifacts given to potential adventurers who die and go to heaven. Originally, Eris and Chris were written to be separate characters, but them being the same is a grand strategy. I adore my midriff-bearing tomboys, after all. As a result, both Eris and Chris can share the full 5 stars. I actually never knew their connection until making this video. Waifu Files are awesome, aren't they? I already mentioned Darkness, or rather Dustiness Ford Lalatina, a masochistic crusader who can't hit her enemies for jack. She comes from a house of nobles, taking up a caretaking role when her mom passed away from a weak immune system. Darkness spent her youth caring for her cousin Sylvia and Iris from the kingdom of Belzerg. One of its nobles, Alexei Barnes Alderp, would often make lecherous advances on her. Perhaps because of this, she develops a fetish for masochism, indulging in fantasies of being accosted or devoured by filthy predators. This fetish dominates her personality, such that she has no hope of marrying a decent man. Whenever her father tries to arrange her marriage, she rejects the suitor and clobbers her dad for playing matchmaker. To avoid this claustrophobic lifestyle, Lalatina took on the name Darkness, running away to become an adventurer. Unfortunately, her accuracy is awful, keeping away any potential party members. She only met Chris after praying at the Eris church. Even then, they can only adventure as a duo. However, her dream is at last granted when she discovers Kazuma, a leader who will degrade her and push all of her perverse buttons. Despite his refusal, she persistently wedges her way into the party, and even though she sucks as a fighter, she makes for a decent tank. In a way, her desire to be ravaged actually deters any would-be villains. Her fantasies are wilder than anything they could ever come up with. That said, for as lewd as she perceives Kazuma to be, and he certainly is, he's also responsible for keeping her out of danger, keeping her fantasies from coming true, to a lethal extent anyway. Darkness is hilarious and beautiful. She too gets 5 stars. As another piece of trivia, it appears her armor was initially made by the Crimson Demon tribe. The Crimson Demons are a tribe of mages known for their dark hair and red eyes. They possess incredible talent and choose to embellish their spells with silly, over-the-top taglines and poses. Turns out, most Crimson Demon women have large busts, but the same can't be said for our next waifu, Megumin, the crazy explosion girl. Her parents, Hyoi Zaburo and Yuiyui, are poor merchants who couldn't afford to buy her and her sister toys. Megumin then would find her own amusement, wandering outside and accidentally unsealing a dark god by solving its puzzle. She was saved when Wolbach, one of the Devil King's 8 generals, vanquished the dark god with her spell, Explosion. Mesmerized by the blast, Megumin begged for Wolbach to teach her the spell's incantation, ignoring warnings that its power made it impractical. While Megumin made many friends and rivals through her red prison school, she went down a unique path by pouring all her skill points into Explosion, and only Explosion. For someone of her stature and mana capacity, the spell is so burdensome that she can only cast it once per day, after which her body becomes weak and immobile. Aside from some rare exceptions, this makes her pretty useless as a party member. Only among Kazuma's other misfits does she find a place to belong, or rather, someone willing to carry her back to town every time she fires off the spell. Normally, Megumin has an enormous ego, and Kazuma's the only one who can knock her down a peg. At the same time, he reluctantly accepts her in a way that no other party leader can. I give Megumin 4 stars. She's adorable, but also extremely high maintenance. Now that I've mentioned the Crimson Demons, we've got a whole slew of waifu to cover from Megumin's side of the story. Let's return to Wolbach. Technically speaking, she and that dark god are two halves of a whole, and Megumin woke both by solving their puzzle. Initially, Wolbach hoped to be a benevolent goddess, but after the Axis Church labeled her evil, she decided to join as one of the Devil King's generals. She resealed her violent half at the Crimson Demon Village, where Megumin's sister Komeko would awaken it once again, this time in the form of a cat familiar they named Chomsuke. I give Wolbach 2 stars. It's a shame she went down a path of darkness because that's how the church saw her. One of Wolbach's worshippers is a high-ranking demon named Arnes. She's a comedic villain who seeks to reunite with Wolbach and tries to take Chomsuke. By this point, though, the cat's already imprinted on Megumin, causing her and Arnes to fight. Arnes is incredibly unlucky, being swindled by both Megumin and her parents on separate occasions. During their final confrontation, Arnes is sent back to hell from Megumin's explosion. I give her 3 stars. All she wanted to do was be with her beloved goddess, but circumstances and misfortune caused her demise. Megumin's mom, Yuiyui, is kind and loves her 2 daughters. Unfortunately, since her husband can't make enough money peddling items in town, she has to join him on long expeditions to other regions. When she hears about how close Megumin and Kazuma have become, she supports their relationship, even though Kazuma is steeped in debt. She doesn't let money get in the way of their love, or what she thinks of love anyway, but it certainly helps. Upon discovering Kazuma is actually quite wealthy, she plays matchmaker, trying to claim him as a son-in-law. Sadly, this effort fails, leaving the family as poor as ever. I give her 2 stars. That said, I do appreciate her hustle. It seems the economy is broken even in fantasy worlds. Megumin's little sister is Komeko. She's cute, but as a child, that's as far as I go. She gets a platonic 1 star. Megumin also has a number of classmates at the Red Prison. As far as I'm concerned, they're all extremely similar, so let's rate some of them as a team. There's Arue, an especially Chunibyo Crimson Demon, who gives Megumin her eye patch and aspires to become an author. Todonko and Funifura are a pair who dream of romance, despite having no experience talking to men. Narimaki performs well in school, but winds up working as a waitress for her family's pub. They all get 2 stars. Perhaps someday they can have more development. The most important member of Megumin's graduating class is Yunyun, her loyal friend and self-proclaimed rival. Yunyun is the daughter of the village chief, although she lacks her Hiropon family's Chunibyo obsession. Instead, she is shy, self-conscious, and gullible, making it difficult for her to befriend her classmates. She's so used to being alone that it manifests as a stealth skill. It got so bad that she tried, and failed, to summon demons as her friends. When they were children, Megumin gave her a crayfish, and this manifested in her desire to become friends. At school, this came off as almost stalkerish, so Yunyun declared herself Megumin's rival so they could interact more. Her true intentions are obvious to everyone in the class, and Megumin takes advantage of this to tease and manipulate her. Ultimately, however, it is Yunyun who enables Megumin to learn Explosion. During an attack on their village, Yunyun learned intermediate spells to protect Megumin and her sister, since Megumin was still saving up her points. Ever since, Yunyun has followed in Megumin's footsteps, always finding an excuse to tag along. She feels inferior, even though she has a much easier time getting recruited into other parties. I give her 3 stars. Ultimately, what she wants most is to be in Megumin's party, though she often lacks the courage to say so. By far, the best waifu among the Crimson Demons is Soketto, the village fortune teller. She's a talented mage who loves spending time in the mountains training her techniques. This puts her level into the 50s, which is outstanding for her tribe. She's a paragon of perfection, living a healthy lifestyle that supports her combat as well as her talents as a homemaker. Because of this, she has guys in the village lusting after her. Using mostly lightning spells, she protects the village from the Devil King's army. I give her 5 stars. Just look at her! Y'all saw this coming. Another principal waifu in Konosuba is Wiz, a former member of the Devil King's army, who since set up a magic shop in the town of Axel. She was originally a human adventurer, a powerful wizard known as the Ice Witch. She and her party used to hunt the Devil King's generals, until one general, Beldia the Dullahan, cast a death curse upon them. Hoping to remove this curse, Wiz went on her own to fight and strike a deal with the General Veneer. In exchange for her soul, she requested to have the curse on her allies lifted. Instead, Veneer taught her a spell so that she could become an undead lich and remove the curse herself. She stormed the Devil King's castle and stomped Beldia. Afterward, she became one of the king's generals, only to leave after continued harassment from Beldia. Being a lich makes Wiz especially weak to Aqua's magic, and even though she does her best to help Kazuma and his party, she still winds up getting caught in Aqua's purification spells. To make matters worse, she sees the Axis Order as a cult of lunatics. I give Wiz 2 stars. While she's kind, her aesthetic just isn't to my personal taste. In her defense, the Axis Order is insane. This can be seen through our next waifu, Cecily, a devout priestess serving under her pervy archpriest Zesta. In the town of Arkanletia, she picks fights with the local Eris church and tries to recruit Megumin into her schemes. More importantly, she desperately yearns for Megumin to treat her like an older sister. She later becomes head of her church's Axel branch, and is one of the only members of Axis to recognize Aqua at first sight. I also give her 2 stars. She may be pretty, but it's petty how she antagonizes the competition. Supporting all the adventurers in Axel, we have Luna, the chief receptionist who welcomes new members and manages quest activity for the guild. She's been in this career for a while, long after her other female colleagues left to get married. Apparently, Veneer thinks she's too old to get married now, which is bullshit. She's only 22. At the guild, she struggles most with the adventurer Dust, who has a habit of shamelessly hitting on the other receptionists and waitresses. In the game, she even gives Chris a quest to investigate him as a potential panty thief. Luna is exceptionally kind, tolerant, and quite bold given how she just flops right out of that loose top. I give her 4 stars. I couldn't imagine anyone better to take quests from. Sorry, Goblin Slayer. I mentioned nobles earlier with darkness, and it's important to note that nobility controls most of this world's society. To enforce their rule, they rely on Sena, one of the royal prosecutors stationed in Axel. Just like Luna, she puts her career first, and the 2 unmarried women often go out drinking together. In Sena's case, however, her cold personality intimidates any potential suitors. As a hobby, she's into boys' love, extorting the succubus shop for the chance to experience BL in her dreams. She aims to carry out her duty as an enforcer of peace with rationality and fairness, even possessing a magical artifact that can detect lies. Despite this, she often holds Kazuma and his party responsible for crimes they didn't actually commit. Sena's a real hard-ass that way. I give her 2 stars. Most of her appeal comes from her inclusion in the game, where we get to see her more often in a better light. Let me just say that all the succubi in Axel are phenomenal. As I mentioned earlier, they take in clients and record their erotic fantasies. In exchange for paid tickets, they project those fantasies in the form of dreams. One time, Kazuma recruits their service, only to have one of the succubi, Lolisa, captured by the party as an intruder. I give all of these succubi 5 stars. It's really cool how they've found a way to monetize their lustuous qualities. Throughout Konosuba, you can find a number of gorgeous adventurers wandering about. I can't possibly cover them all, but let's highlight some of my favorites. Crimea and Fio are 2 girls who party with Kyoya Mitsurugi, another hero sent from Japan. He brought with him the cursed sword Gram, becoming a real contender to slay the Devil King. That is, before Kazuma came around and ruined him. Despite this, Kyoya's companions, both in love with him, remain by his side even through embarrassing times. They're super hot and incredibly loyal. Gotta give these 2 each 4 stars. You couldn't ask for better partners. There's a girl named Sophie who appears in the Megumin spin-off. She and her party were the strongest in Axel till Kyoya showed up. They team up with Megumin and Yunyun for a mission. She's pretty hot in the anime, but just take a look at her design in the manga. Talk about censorship. I give her 4 stars. That manga was superior on pretty much every level. One of the newer adventurers is Ran, a girl who was hired to suck up to Kazuma in an attempt to motivate his party, which had gotten lazy with their newfound wealth. Her simping provokes Kazuma to take on dangerous quests to promote himself. Naturally, putting up with all of his gloating and inflated ego trips is tiring. When she asks for a raise, Kazuma overhears he's being duped and steals her panties as punishment. Welcome to the club. I gave Ran 3 stars. I love that half-buckled suspenders look she's got going. 2 other supporting adventurers are Lina and Rin. Lina's one of the first girls to recruit Megumin into her party, only to regret it later. Then there's Rin, a wizard who parties with Dust and often has to keep him in check by force. They also get 3 stars. It's ridiculous just how many small side characters there are. It starts to get messy when they hardly even get name-dropped. Our last waifu is Sylvia, the growth chimera from the Konosuba movie. She's another of the Devil King's generals, as well as the director of the Monster Enhancement Division. Her biggest surprise is that she used to be male, but modified her body by assimilating with other creatures. She's got a nice rack, but apparently also retains her original genitalia, much to Kazuma's horror. Sylvia is ordered to attack the Crimson Demons, and is taken aback by their strength and charisma. After being struck through with a magical railgun, she merges with the deceased Baldia and Hans, returning as a monstrous serpent. Ultimately, her love for Kazuma becomes her undoing, as he manipulates her into taking down her guard, allowing a joint spell from Megumin and Yunyun to blow them both up. She gets 2 stars. She's a rather tragic character, given all she truly wanted was someone to love her. With that, I've covered 27 different waifu in the series. Of course, there are even more if you dig into the manga, original novels, and spin-off games, but those wouldn't be nearly as fun to show off since they haven't made it into the anime yet. Perhaps Season 3 will change that. As usual, these ratings are just my opinion. Feel free to debate or agree with them in the comments below. See you later!
Thanks for watching.
If you enjoy this channel, help us grow by liking, commenting, sharing the video, subscribing to OtakuDaiKun, and
most of all, smashing that notification bell so you don't miss out on all our anime lore, discussions, and Let's Play content.
You can support us directly through Patreon, Subscribestar, or a YouTube membership, all of which come with benefits like spicy exclusive vids and early access.
As always, celebrate your fandom. I want to give a special shout out to all my $10 and up supporters. Video Gamer 75, Dante Pendragon, Stephen Elak, Samuel Gersten, The Nonchalant Ostrich, Otaku Mom, Jens Bauman, Mystic Samurai 1983, Lord Ormagoden, Freebrick, Alexis Yukio Gomez Yamato, Link Pendrago, Olympian Doll, Observer Bellis, James Hewitt, Uncanny EXP, Scout, Zamas Autonomous, Jared, Yukie Iros, Crow Calum, Saul Soto, Tristan Riggin, Major, Sogai CH, Caitlin P, Vladimirovna, The Taz 96, Kengo X 77, Hersha of E-Rated Hands, Alistair Bernadotte, and Akakaze Yume. Thank you all so much.